quick question before we talk about any music. This has been on my mind. We have a friend that thinks Trent looks like evidence. Free, I want you to help us out here. Do you think they resemble one another at all?
I mean, I don't know. I could see it, but like I don't think you'd be mistaken for evidence.
No.
I don't think. I don't know. I mean, I could
one-
see, like if someone said it, I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe. But like,
Do you think he looks more like evidence or more like the alchemist? Which one do you think if you had to go
I don't think he
either
looks
way?
like the Alchemist,
No,
no.
okay, all right.
I don't think he does.
All right.
I'm telling you, the alchemist thing is literally just the glasses. It's literally just the fact that I wear glasses and a hat. The evidence thing, maybe, like, I don't know. I don't think I look like either.
I don't know.
But
You look like the Step Brothers, apparently. So I mean, for those who don't know, like back in the '90s, he was in a group called Dilated Peoples with DJ Babu and Ira Sirens, and then they kind of went. They're still cool, but they kind of went their own separate ways. Evidence started making solo albums. He created this idea of the Weatherman, where every album had to do with the weather. There was cats and dogs, whether or not.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I'm doing this all off the top of my head. So
You're doing good.
Get something. But so he has this trilogy of albums, and like this is the album that's he kind of like he killed the Weatherman, and he's basically like creating like this new identity for himself. He's unlearning, everything that he learned before. So last year he put out a song called Unlearning, which isn't on the album. I'm assuming that was supposed to be. He was supposed to put out an album in 2020. I'm assuming like this is what it was, but he scrapped it for obvious reasons.
Right.
And he put this out this year. And as far as like I feel like the Weatherman albums got better as they went on, because at the beginning, like, I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I feel like Ira Sirens was probably the more front MC, more so than Evidence. I think people considered him more the
lead
go-to guy.
Yeah.
And in every group, there's always like one guy that's the guy, and then that's unfortunate, but
That's how the cookie
it
crumbles.
happens.
In a lot of, you're right. In most cases, that is the case.
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves Andre 3000, and they don't love Big Boy as much. Yeah. I personally love Big Boy, but like, there's always that dynamic. And I feel like, so when Evidence went solo, I feel like his first couple albums were good. I wouldn't call them great. He's more of a producer, in my opinion. I feel like he's a really great producer. He works. I mean, his best friend is Alchemist. So and I was kind of making a joke earlier when I said you could be stepbrothers because Alchemist and Evidence have a group called Step Brothers.
Oh.
See?
Well, yeah, right over our heads.
Sorry. Yeah, and if you like Alchemist rapping, you should check out the Step Brothers album, because I think it's dope. In my opinion, he was a better producer than an MC. Over the years, I think he's gotten better. I feel like this is an MC. I think this is his best work. I don't know how much of this album he produced. There's a bunch of different producers, which I was kind of surprised by. I assumed that he would produce the whole album by himself. So there's a bunch of different producers, but I think it still sounds cohesive. It doesn't sound like a bunch of random beats put together. I think the album still sounds pretty cohesive. And in my opinion, I mean, maybe I'm just a stan, but I mean, I don't think any song on this album misses. I feel like it's all hits to me. Like everything gets the point across. I'm a big fan of like the flat-footed, straightforward flow. Like him and Boldy James feel like a perfect match. It's like that straight,
I like that.
Yeah.
that just say what you need to say. There's no inflection.
Yeah.
Because you can't hide behind anything. It's like what you're saying has to make a point, because you're not hiding behind your weird flow or some weird thing that you're saying. You're just saying it.
Yeah.
And I've always appreciated that about Evidence. And I think on this album he's grown a lot. His his wife between the last album in 2018, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and this one, his wife died,
Yeah.
and they had just had a baby, so now he's raising his son by himself, and you can see that weighs a lot on him, and he's kind of dealing with that, which is I think why this album may sound kind of dour at times,
Mm-hmm.
just because he's really talking about he's really going through that a lot, and I don't know that's my overall. We can get into songs later, but like that's basically the starting point for evidence.
Interesting that we kind of talked about the Mike album earlier on and how, these things that happen outside of the music absolutely permeate the sound and the message and kind of the energy that someone carries about themselves in creating this music. And so um, going back and re-listening to it with that in mind kind of gave it a texture that I found really interesting. Again, sad, but two, like makes you feel something with the way that the message is being put across, which I think is important. And like you said, there does seem to be a real emphasis on getting the message across because it's not like he's doing so many theatrics with his voice or the delivery or the way that like Boldy James. It's kind of like there's a real standard for how these words come out. Some people may see that as a little like static, but it really just points to something else that is maybe increasingly or more important about what's being said or how it's being said. And for evidence, I think, it really does come down to the words. And so it kind of makes me focus more on the words and enjoy them more in that sense. But
Yeah, I always love it. On the song "All That Said," which is the Boldy James track. He says, "I don't waste words, so the verses will rhyme."
yeah, I
I
remember
mean,
that line too.
that's
Like
the entire ethos. That's everything. Don't waste any words.
yeah. So many people do that, just like fill in a bar here and there. That's like a pretty passive thing. But rappers that literally don't waste a word. Um, Ka is another rapper that I think is
One of
incredibly
my favorites.
efficient with, you know, taking on dense statements, undertakings, and making them 30 minutes, and covering a whole lot of ground. Um, Also similar with the very like malaise delivery and just like, but that not really mattering because there's so much going on in what's being said. So I did really enjoy that Boldy James track. We love Boldy James. Um, so for me, that was actually where the album kind of started to get its full swing for me. I thought the first four tracks were fine, but I thought like after this song, I thought whether it was a track that he had another feature on or the tracks that he was solo on, these were some of my favorites down the list were from about 5 to the end at 14. It's where I thought this album kind of picked up and hit its stride. Do you have particular songs in here that you thought kind of went above the rest, like beyond them all just being solid and no skips? Did you feel like there were ones that truly stood out?
The song that he was talking about his son, I think that was probably a tailor-made suit, where just the hook, I
Yeah.
mean, just the line,
Oh, God.
funeral suit, same as
Same.
my wedding suit. I
Yeah.
mean, that is dark.
Yeah.
My funeral
Yeah.
suit, same as my wedding suit. I only have one. I mean, talk about not wasting a word. Like what? That says a lot, and that is dark. But man, um, one of my favorite lines is "Lost in Time" by Park Jams, where he talks about if you don't, he's also a photographer. His mother was a photographer, and his mother on I didn't mention this earlier, but on one of his earlier albums, like his mother had also passed away too.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, I don't know, maybe 5 or so years, his mother and his wife have died. So a lot is weighing on him. So, and he's also a photographer. So if you follow him on Instagram, you can see a lot of his stuff. So on this song, he's making like allusions to taking pictures but it sounds like he's talking about a gun. For he says, all my reasons and my logic have now been panning out. Didn't take me serious until I pulled the cannon out. I make the photo finish vintage. They don't call it art. I'm just a person who's the owner of a lonely heart. One of my favorite songs is Won't Give Up on Danger. That song, the first verse, he's talking about not being able to sleep very well because he has a lot of things going on. And then the second verse, he's rapping from his friend's perspective that are like trying to comfort him and tell him, why are you always acting like you don't need help? We will help you. Just let us know. We'll do anything that you need to be done, that you need done. Just ask us for help. And I don't think I've ever heard maybe any song where it's just like he's rapping from his friend's point of view, trying to tell him to get help. Tell them to ask me for help because I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that shifted perspective. That's very, like I said, I don't know that everybody would be able to like see their circumstance in that way, in that light, and then write a song around it. So yeah, creative song topics, really gritty, real song topics, lyrics, and I mean we've named a couple here where it's some very obviously very heavy substance making its way into most of these songs with relative brevity or levity or ease, it doesn't feel like I can't just turn this on and enjoy it for just like having some decent beats and some good raps and stuff like that. But if I care to or choose to or want to dive into what's being said deeper, like there's a whole rabbit hole to go down that I think makes this a strong record. So